Ever wondered what the real cost of convenience is in our digital world? Tim Jensen, host of Intentionally Inconvenient, dares to question if convenience is truly the enemy of privacy. You'll explore the essence of privacy, why it's worth pursuing, and debunk the myth that it's a lost cause. Together, you will challenge the notion of, I have nothing to hide, and reveal why every bit of your information matters. Remember, all hope is not lost. It's time to reclaim your privacy in this intentionally inconvenient reality.
Hello and welcome to Intentionally Inconvenient, where we talk about personal freedom through securing your privacy. My name is Tim Jensen. I'm the host of Intentionally Inconvenient. In our last episode, we talked about two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication using hardware keys. We talked about those. I was showing you those, that one and the blue one. And those are YubiKeys, and then of course the only key, which is also a password manager, and it's a good one because you don't have to have it online like a software password manager. You've got the hardware key, and unless you have it physically in your possession, it can't be used. So that's what we talked about in the last episode. Today we're going to talk more about two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, but this time we're going to talk about using Authenticator apps as well as text, email, and phone call codes for two-factor authentication. This can be another way to secure your accounts when a hardware key might not be available for your online account. So I'm going to get right into it. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, multi-factor authentication, MFA, adds another layer of protection to your online accounts. Well, in today's online world, you absolutely must implement 2FA and MFA to move you from the low-hanging fruit to the high-hanging fruit, or even the top of the tree hanging fruit. This makes it as difficult as possible for a hacker to gain access to your accounts, and that's so important. You don't want a hacker gaining access to your account because they could take it over forever. That's a big deal. I almost lost my Facebook account. I almost lost my Twitter account. And if it wasn't for two-factor authentication, I would have. It's that important to me. It's a big deal. All two-factor codes, all multi-factor codes are generated by an algorithm. So we didn't really touch on this in the hardware episode, last episode, so I'm going to kind of go through this now. An algorithm is a set of rules that govern the generating, the verifying, and the validation of authentication codes. So this ensures that the codes are transmitted securely and that they're verified between the user, you, and the other end of the other computer, them, so that they both are using the same thing. And there's several different versions. There's the time-based one-time password algorithm. This generates a one-time password based on the current time and a shared secret key. I'm not going to get into a lot of details on this. There's a website I will put in the show notes that I'll link to that explains this a lot better than I can. I'm not a computer programmer, and these guys are. So this is where your phone scans a QR code from your camera on your phone, and then by scanning that code, it stores that resulting secret key into the Authenticator app on your phone. You've probably done that at least once if you've done any kind of two-factor authentication with an Authenticator app. Second one is HMAC-based one-time password algorithm. This generates and I don't know what HMAC stands for. You look it up in that website link that I'll give you at in the show notes. This generates a one-time password based on a counter and a shared secret key. So the counter increments by one every 30 seconds or something like that, and then they combine that with the secret key, and it generates through an algorithm a one-time passcode. Usually that's a 6-digit code you get. An example in the hardware tokens, it's not necessarily a YubiKey hardware token, but other hardware tokens might be using this. Third one, public key algorithms. Go to that webpage because I'm not going to discuss that here at all. Doesn't apply to anything I've talked about. Number 4, cryptographic hash functions. This is algorithms like SHA-256 that are used to generate a secure hash, ensuring the integrity of shared secrets and one-time passwords. Now, I'm not going to discuss that. Go to the website, read all about it there to your heart's content. Number 5, symmetric encryption algorithms. This is used in some proprietary systems from specific companies where the authentication relies on encrypting and decrypting data with a shared key. Again, go to the website, not discussing that one, but the last one I am. This one is used by the YubiKey. It's called challenge response algorithm. A cryptographic challenge is presented, and the user or device, YubiKey, relies on encrypting and decrypting the data with that shared key that is built into the device at manufacture. Challenge response algorithm. So the role of these algorithms is to ensure that the authentication codes are hard to guess by a human being or even replicate by a computer. They allow for the synchronization between the user's device and the authentication server, like in the case of the one-time password, the time synchronization. These algorithms are typically open standards to encourage widespread adoption and scrutiny for security, just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. Okay, why did I just go over all that? To show you how the authentication is done, and that can vary from method to method. And it's all done for the two-factor authentication. You don't need to know all the technical mumbo-jumbo. You just don't. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be a hacker. You don't need to write a line of code. You don't need to know any of that. You just got to have the key and the device or the computer, plug it in, do the job, or have the Authenticator app on your phone. Look it up. It'll give you that 6-digit code. You plug it in. You got 30 seconds, and then the next code comes. That's all you need to know. And you've probably experienced that. So OTP, a few definitions here. OTP is one-time password. So a one-time password is created on the user's side for the authentication app. It's created on your side. It's created on the server side for text, email, and phone call codes. So where it's created is based on what method you're using. So time-based one-time password, TBOTP, is a 5-step process. The back-end server creates a secret key for that particular user. The server then shares the secret key with the phone. That's where you scan the QR code. The phone application utilizes a counter, adds one at a time. The phone app then generates a one-time password using the secret key and the counter. And finally, the application changes the counter after a certain interval. This is where it's either 30 seconds, or in the case of email, it could be 10 minutes. In the case of phone call, it could be 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. Who knows? Maybe a minute. And then it regenerates that using that counter, making it one-time dynamic password that changes frequently. So the counter, like I said, is typically 30 seconds for a phone app, 4 to 10 minutes if it's text or email based when it comes from a central server. Phone apps can be used offline. Let me say that again. Your phone app, Authenticator app, can be used offline. You don't need to be connected to the internet to use that Authenticator app on your phone. Don't need to be connected. Text, email, and phone call based require that the receiving device is online to receive the authentication code. And when I say online for phone, it just means you've got to be on the phone network. You've got to have access to receive texts or receive phone calls. So you can check the show notes. It'll be there, that one link. It's from freecodecamp.org, but it's really long, and I'm not going to bother with that. Now, there's one more thing that is another two-factor authentication. This is the pass keys. Now, pass keys are a newer type of authentication. I've heard that they are very, very secure, and I've seen what a pass key looks like. It's incredibly long. Several, 15, 20 lines worth of what looks like garbage and gibberish to me. Just like a password, they need to be stored somewhere. They can be stored in a password manager, but for some people, storing your username, your password, and your two-factor passkey all in the same place, while it may be convenient, does have the potential to have all of your login information stolen from one place. I've used passkeys for a few things, but I'm more convinced of having them separate of a username, a password, and a physical hardware key is a safer way to handle this. Now, listen carefully. This is a very important part. What I'm about to say is incredibly important. After you are logged in, You put in your username, you put in your password, you put in the two-factor code with a key or an app or a text or an email or a phone call. You plug that in, you are logged in. It's time to get going, right? I want you to remember something. Remember, very important, session tokens. 2 words, session tokens. It's the token that tells the other computer you are in a session. You are logged in. Once you are authenticated via text, email, phone code, Authenticator app, hardware key, username, password, the website then places that session token on your browser. And just like it sounds, this is a piece of code that's a token, used as a token that's stored on your computer. Every time you access the website during the session, every click that you make, every time you go to another page, until you log out, you will not need to re-authenticate. You will not need to put in your password, your username, your two-factor codes. You won't need to do it, which is incredibly convenient. It's wonderful. But let me tell you, 3 words, always log out. Always log out. This makes your two-factor authentication more secure. This makes your password more secure. This makes your username more secure. Always log out. When you're done with your session, you can harden your browser to delete things like cookies and session tokens whenever you close your browser. This may be inconvenient to have to log in every time that you open your browser again, but it protects your online accounts from someone gaining unauthorized access to your account. There's a lot of people that leave their computers on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, leave their browser up, and if you're logged in and you're not there, and that session token gets stolen, they don't need your username. They don't need your password. They don't need your hardware key. They don't need your Authenticator app. They don't need the text code. They don't need the email code. They don't need that phone call code. They don't need any of it because they are logged in just as though it was you on your computer. That if they steal that session token, they are logged in forever because they won't log out. And now they have full access to whatever account you are logged into. Always log out. You know the hardest place to do this? Your email on your phone. That session token has you logged in. Always log out. Always log out when you're done with your session. That is probably going to be the most painful thing you can do. And it's probably the most inconvenient thing for you to do. And most people probably won't do it. But this is how huge, large follower YouTube accounts were stolen. Because they didn't log out. Someone stole the session token and they stayed logged in out there in Hackerland. They had a ball. They had an absolute ball. Always log out. So, I think I made my point there. Here's some other things that you might want to remember. In today's world, the risk of being tracked online is a major concern. Anyone, like a coworker, a new online date, or a stranger, can pose a threat if they gain access to your personally identifying information. Have you ever searched online for your name, first and last name, city, state, from your favorite search engine? If you did, how many websites were publicly displaying your current or your previous identifying information? Can I look you up on a people search site? Can I go to mylife.com, put in your first name, your last name, your city and state, and find information about you, your current email, your past email, your current address, your past address, your current phone number, your previous phone number? Can I find that on truepeoplesearch.com? Can I go to spokeo.com or whitepages.com, benverified.com or lexisnexis.com and look you up? If I went to any of those sites, could I figure out who your mother's name is? Or how about this? Your mother's maiden name. What could I do with your mother's maiden name? What could possibly go wrong? Now, I'm not going to do any of this. I don't even know who you, quote, are. If you tried to contact these people on search sites and request that they remove your personally identifying information, would you know what search sites to ask? Even if they did remove it, would that be enough? How long would it be before it shows up again on those same websites? Well, we found it elsewhere, so we put it back. And they have every right to do that. Don't try this at home. Don't try and delete your stuff off the websites yourself. Hire someone to do this. Go right now. GoClick.me/delete-me. GoClick.me/delete-me. GoClik.me/delete-me. DELETEME. Delete Me has a Black Friday special going on. Maybe when you see this, I'm recording this on November 26, 2024, so it might be a little bit late for that, but they have specials going on every so often. But right now, today, you can get 25% off of their regular price. Right now, GoClick.me/delete-me. Have a peace of mind knowing that your information is being removed from the public eye. GoClick.me/delete-me. Don't let somebody steal you. Don't let somebody steal your identity. Okay, so from a previous episode, I'm just going to go very quickly over some guidelines that I had mentioned before. I rewrote a few of these to make them more sense. Unless you absolutely have to, you should avoid text messaging two-factor authentication, where they text you the code. Why? Because it's very easy to do what's called a SIM swap. Google it, look it up, do a search, SIM swap. It's very easy to do. When using Authenticator applications, be cautious about the ones that you use. There's many respected names out there. There's only two that I use. Some of these are just disguised as 2FA codes, or as 2FA applications that collect your personal identifying information, including your IMEI number, your SIM card number, your phone number, all of your contacts, every app that you use, your geography, where you're located, all that stuff. So I use the YubiKey 5CI that I just showed you earlier. You can put up to 32 two-factor codes right on there, and nobody can steal it. The other one I use is called Aegis, AEGIS. It's an authenticator app that has a passcode. So you have to have the password in order to unlock it just to see the two-factor codes. So even if they steal it, if you're not logged in, they can't access it because it's encrypted. And then you can also move the seeds from device to device. Can't do that with a lot of these things like Authy and whatever else, Google Authenticator. You cannot move those codes from phone to phone. And if you drop your phone and crack it, the wailing and gnashing of teeth will start because you will not be able to access those codes. So you can move the seeds for the codes from device to device. I don't recommend any other app because a lot of them just steal your stuff. They steal your information. Authenticator applications. Make sure that you can move your data from device to device. Don't lock it down to just one device. Have it on two devices. Save your old phone. Use it as a Droid pod or an iPod. If nothing else, just use it for saving your two factors. I prefer hardware keys because hackers cannot just steal those over the internet. They can't download them. They have to physically have them in their possession in order to use them. They're not foolproof, but they're the closest thing to foolproof that I'm aware of. I do like using biometrics, but unfortunately, I don't use it as much because too many organizations have your biometric information, number one. And my biggest concern with biometrics is the government. Government officials in the United States, by Supreme Court ruling, can force you to use biometrics to unlock your phone. They cannot force you to enter a password nor a passcode. I'm not going to get into why. That's just the way the law is right now in the United States. Authenticator apps use an algorithm that's proprietary. So, in other words, each company creates its own authenticator app. They each have their own authenticator algorithm that generates the one-time passcode. It just works better. Many people teach to just use the authentication app that is included with your password manager. This goes against my belief that you should, if it's multi-factor authentication, that second factor should not be saved in the same source as your passwords. Keep it in a separate physical device. Keep things separate. Be intentionally inconvenient. use the Authenticator app. Don't store them in your password manager. If it's convenient for you to use, it's convenient for someone else to use. Put the Authenticator apps on multiple devices, so if you lose one, or if you break one, or you don't have one with you because you took the wrong phone, at least you still got your Authenticator apps. YubiKey 5CI and Aegis Authenticator app are the only two that I use. So, let's review the main points. You must implement two-factor authentication on your online accounts. 2FA and MFA can be accomplished using an Authenticator app or via text, email, phone call, or the hardware key. Your 2FA app does not need to be connected to the internet in order to generate the codes. I use both a YubiKey 5CI and Aegis Authenticator app to generate 2FA codes. I do not recommend any other Authenticator app. Have multiple ways to access your 2FA codes. You can use more than one device. Biometrics will work, but because government officials can force you to use biometrics to open up your phone and open up your phone apps, I don't recommend using biometrics on your phone. Use passwords, use passcodes. And I recommend that you keep your 2FA codes separate from your password manager because convenience is the enemy of privacy. So that's all I've got today regarding 2FA and MFA using Authenticator apps and text, email, and phone calls for the level 1 of this Privacy Bootcamp. Be sure to get set up with Delete Me to keep your personally identifying information off of the internet. Go to GoClickMe/delete me. GoClick.me/delete me to get started. You'll really be glad you did. In our next episode, I'm going to discuss another essential tool for staying private, locking down or maybe even deleting some of your social media accounts. I know that sounds like I'm a heretic, but I'll explain it when we get that far. Until next time, this is Tim Jensen reminding you to stay safe and stay private. Thanks for listening.
That's all for now from Intentionally Inconvenient, leaving you with a challenge to question the cost of online convenience. If you want to keep learning, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Your reviews and 5-star ratings help reach more listeners. Until next time, remember, your privacy is never a lost cause. Stay safe, stay private.